Today's video, we are talking about some Dynasty stashes, some players that you could potentially add to your Dynasty rosters as free agency is happening to see if they gain value, either getting moved somewhere or another player on their team gets moved and they increase in value indirectly because of it. Now, we're not talking about kind of obvious stashes like, for example, Jordan Whittington is I see on a lot of people's stash him kind of video. I already assume that he's rostered in most leagues. So if you play in shallower leagues, sure, that's fine. But I'm not going to talk about a lot of the obvious names. There are a few that are kind of obvious, but most of these are a little bit deeper. As if you watch my waiver wire video during the season, we talk about some guys like we're talking about practice squad guys potentially in a lot of those. So as always, if you like Dynasty content, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Free agency is happening. So keep in mind, I'm recording this. I think free agency started about an hour ago. So I am recording this an hour, March 10th at 11 my time, 11 a.m. my time. I think that's 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. Eastern. So, some moves could be made already as you're watching this. But Zach Wilson, he's definitely one of the more well-known names on this list. Obviously, a complete bust. Was the number 2 overall pick and flamed out with the Jets, went to the Broncos last year. He's a free agent. There's a lot of free agent quarterbacks. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how they move around. But, I think what we've learned recently is, guys like Geno Smith, guys like Baker Mayfield, guys like Sam Darnold, where when they get a second chance or a third chance and they get to the right team, that sometimes it's all about your team and your fit, right? And I don't think it's a coincidence that Geno, Sam Darnold, and now Zach Wilson were all taken by the Jets and they kind of flamed out with the Jets. Is it because they all suck or is it because that organization's bad? Now, I don't necessarily think Zach Wilson's going to come and be this top 12 quarterback or be Baker Mayfield or whatever. But I do think potentially if he gets to the right team, if he becomes the backup for the Vikings, the backup for the 49ers, whatever, and he actually gets an opportunity at some point, that maybe in the right system he can be serviceable. So I still think Zach Wilson deserves to be on rosters in Superflex leagues, especially these deeper Superflex leagues. Daniel Jones is another one. He's probably still rostered, I would assume, but just in case he's not, I would definitely go out there and grab Daniel Jones. He's also a free agent. Kind of want him to go back to the Vikings. And honestly, again, he gets to the right team in the right system with his ability to run the ball. He could become a little bit more than just a serviceable super flex quarterback. Like he can actually have a season in the right settings, a top 15 season. We saw it one year, a couple years ago with the first year of Dayball. And the Giants. So there's a lot more you can do with a guy like Daniel Jones. Like you can run a zone read type of offense. So some teams will be a little bit more attracted to a player like Jones, compared to some of these other free agents. So if he's out there, definitely grab him. I would assume for most of you, he's still rostered. Now we're getting into some of the deeper names here. Jaren Hall is a Seahawk. If you'll remember him, he was drafted in the 5th or 6th round a couple years ago by the Vikings, 5th round by the Vikings in 2023. He was actually going to make a start for them, and then he got hurt right away. I think he actually technically started, but then he got hurt right away. He's actually on the Seahawks, which I don't know. I didn't realize until looking at depth charts yesterday that he's actually on the Seahawks. And obviously the Seahawks just traded Geno Smith. They have Sam Howell there. Jaren Hall right now is the QB2. Do I think it's going to stay that way? No. But I know they want to go out there and get Sam Darnold. And again, you might be watching this and maybe they already signed Sam Darnold and all of this is kind of a moot point. But what if they don't get him? What if they don't get Sam Darnold and they have to go to the next tier of free agents or something? That's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. I felt that way with the Vikings when they grabbed Sam Darnold. Like, what if they don't upgrade their quarterback situation? And obviously they tried to through the draft, but in free agency, they went and got Darnold and the rest is history. So, Jaren Hall, do I think he's, again, going to be a difference maker as a quarterback? No. But can I see him increase in value if, the Seahawks aren't able to get one of the top free agent quarterbacks? Can I see Jaren Hall getting a bump in value a little bit? Sure. And that's all we're really trying to do here with these deep stashes. We're not expecting really any of these guys to win us leagues. We're expecting bumps in value, post free agency. And in that way, we can potentially use them as a part of a trade. Or maybe we have something with these guys going into next year. Who knows? Stetson Bennett's another one. Now, this is something that Jimmy Garoppolo did re-sign with the Rams, so this obviously hurts this one a little bit. But I still think Stetson Bennett should probably still be rostered. I mean, you have Garoppolo and Stafford there and all of that, but this was kind of made with the idea that potentially Bennett will be the QB2 for the Rams, but Garoppolo's coming back, so a little bit less of a a little bit less smoke on this one. But Stetson Bennett, can he maybe beat out Garoppolo to be the number 2 guy? I don't know. Maybe there's a chance, right? There's a chance for it. Going even deeper here, we got Skylar Thompson. He was with the Dolphins, and he's no longer on the Dolphins, by the way. Again, something that I didn't realize. He's on the Steelers. I don't know when exactly that happened. So I guess it was after the season, after the regular season, sometime in January, where the Steelers signed him to kind of a reserve future contract. The Steelers are another situation. Steelers don't have, they hardly have anyone on their roster. I think Skylar Thompson might be their only quarterback that's not a free agent. They have Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, and then Kyle Allen, who's also was on the team, is also a free agent. So they don't really have any quarterbacks besides Skylar Thompson on the team. Again, we're assuming they're going to make a move, either free agency or draft. I mean, they'd be crazy not to after just paying DK Metcalf. But sometimes things just don't work out that way. Maybe Skylar Thompson is the QB2 for the Steelers. And honestly, every QB2, almost every single QB2 in Dynasty Superflex should probably be rostered, right? Should probably be rostered. So Skylar Thompson on the Steelers, in case you didn't know. And then Devin Leary. Devin Leary was a rookie last year. He was drafted by the Ravens in the 6th round of the 2024 NFL Draft. He played at Kentucky and NC State. And again, they used draft capital on him, so they drafted him thinking, okay, you can be our backup. Ravens are another team where I believe it's just Lamar and Leary as on their roster. Those are the only 2 quarterbacks they have on their active roster right now that the new league year has started. So just throwing it out there, what if they go into the season? Obviously, he's never going to replace Lamar, but what if they go into the season and Devin Leary is their QB2? Or they bring in someone and those 2 guys are going to compete for the backup spot. Who's going to back up Lamar? So just something to note there. Again, I believe that basically every single backup quarterback should be rostered. We see it year after year where these guys we're not even thinking about and we think it's ridiculous. Jake Browning, we think it's ridiculous. This guy's ever going to get a chance. Cooper Rush. And then the starter gets hurt. The backup comes in and they provide something, right? They provide something. So quarterbacks get hurt. We see a lot of starting quarterbacks every single year. Into the running back situation, Hassan Haskins. Now, I assume in a decent amount of leagues he's going to be rostered just because he was doing something with the Chargers last year. He didn't do much, but he was on the Chargers and the Harbaugh reuniting with the Michigan guy. The narrative there probably got him on some teams. But currently the Chargers, they're another team where all they have is Hassan Haskins, Jarrett Patterson, and then Kamani Vidal, right? Gus Edwards, they're releasing. J.K. Dobbins is a free agent, so maybe they bring him back. And then you have Hassan Haskins, you have Jarrett Patterson, you have Kamani Vidal. We all assume in this deep running back draft class that they're going to bring someone in, or maybe even in through free agency, or maybe they're going to bring multiple guys in. But what if they go into the season with a rookie that they drafted, and then Hassan Haskins, Kamani Vidal, and Jarrett Patterson? Who's the RB2 there? To me, it's up in the air who the RB2 is. And again, every RB2, probably every RB3 should be rostered in dynasty leagues. So there's an outside chance where if they only bring in one guy that, either free agency or draft, that Hassan Haskins, who was kind of the RB3 for him last year, moves into the RB2 spot. Just throwing it out there. Moving right along, we got, and this is another player that I think is probably rostered, but Isaiah Davis. Isaiah Davis, who I kind of was talking about Isaiah Davis last year saying, hey, I know Braylon Allen was drafted in round 4 and everyone knows Braylon Allen's name, but this guy, Isaiah Davis, to me has a decent chance of being the RB2 for the Jets. And it seemed like it was Braylon Allen was going to be the guy, and then Brees got hurt. And we all thought, oh my God, Braylon Allen's going to smash. And then it became like basically a 50-50 split. I think Isaiah Davis is actually a little bit better. So you got a new coaching staff coming in. I feel fairly confident that maybe they bring in a running back like later in the draft or free agency, but they don't have to because you have Brees Hall, because you have Braylon Allen, because now you have Isaiah Davis. Like, what if this new coaching staff prefers Isaiah Davis over Brees Hall? Something to think about. Now, again, I think he's rostered on a lot of teams, but in case he's not, I would definitely be bringing Isaiah Davis onto my roster. Another guy that I liked last year, Rasheen Ali. He was in my Dynasty waiver wire shows like almost every single week. Didn't really do anything for the Ravens. He was, he went to school at Marshall, was kind of a workhorse running back at Marshall, didn't do anything with the Ravens, had 10 carries. That being said, I feel confident as well that the Ravens, maybe not 100%, but I feel fairly confident that the Ravens don't need to go running back anywhere in free agency or the draft until maybe later in the draft, because you have Derrick Henry, because you have Justice Hill, because you have Keaton Mitchell, you have all these guys. Rasheen Ali, to me, if something were to happen to Derrick Henry, I feel like he profiles as a better running back than Justice Hill or Keaton Mitchell, as like a guy who could kind of carry a little bit more of the load in between the tackles, that early down work. So a rookie that I liked coming out of college, was productive, was drafted in the 5th round by the Ravens, didn't really get an opportunity last year. But what if he, moves up the depth chart, becomes the RB3 or the RB2 for the Ravens? So it's just a player to potentially add there. And I think you can find him on some waiver wire. Same with Sione Vaki or Sion Vaki. I think it's Sion for the Detroit Lions. The Lions, obviously you have Jahmyr Gibbs, you have David Montgomery. Those guys aren't going anywhere. But, what if Vaki here, Sion Vaki, becomes the RB3 for him? Craig Reynolds was kind of the RB3 for the Lions last year. He's a free agent. I don't know if they're going to bring him back or not. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But Sion Vaki, potentially a rookie who was a like hybrid safety / running back in college, like maybe they feel confident in him being their RB3, right? And that's going to be there's going to be some value there. The RB3 for the Lions, the RB3 for the Lions, a run heavy team, right? There's some value there for sure. He's still a young guy as well, so people are always going to get a little bit more excited when like, Craig Reynolds, we've been hearing his name forever, but Sion Vaki, can he be something, right? Like we haven't seen him. Now he didn't do anything last year. Sione, it's Sione, by the way. I just found the pronunciation guide. Sione Vaki. He didn't do anything last year. He had 6 carries and 3 catches, so he had less than 10 touches all year. That being said, they did take him in the 4th round. That's not nothing, right? That's decent draft capital for a running back. So taking him in the 4th round, like they obviously thought highly of him to take him that high, even though they're a team that had Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Kendall Milton is another one here. He's not on the Eagles. He was originally on the Eagles, but then he went over to the Bengals last year, in the middle of last year, and he was on the Bengals, I believe, practice squad in like November or something, and then they signed him to their active roster the last like week of the season. But Kendall Milton, a big running back out of Georgia. I think he's over 6 foot and like 230. Like he's a big dude. Is on the Bengals, and the Bengals are another team where you look at their free agents for the running back position. A lot of the guys that have been there a while, like a Chris Evans and what's the other guy? Travion Williams, Chris Evans, and Khalil Herbert. All those guys are unrestricted free agents. So all 3 of them theoretically could be gone from the team. And then you're left with obviously Chase Brown, Zach Moss, and Kendall Milton. So there's some intrigue there. Like if Milton, 1, if he's the RB3, but 2, can he beat out a Zach Moss to be the RB2? I mean, crazier things have happened, right? Kendall Milton, who again was productive in college, just, he's a bigger back. He went undrafted, but he had some good years at Georgia. He averaged 6.5 yards a carry last in 2023 for Georgia, over almost 800 yards rushing. in his career. He averaged over 6 yards per attempt. So kind of an interesting player there that could potentially gain value from the Bengals not making moves at the running back position. Keelan Robinson for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is more if you play in any type of return point leagues, if you play in kick return, punt return points. Keelan Robinson, who was a rookie last year as well out of Texas, was basically a kick returner for Texas in college. That's kind of where he got on the field the most, was in his kick returns. I think he could be a talented kick returner. He definitely has speed. I think he ran a low 4.4. He was injured most of the year, got activated like in November, never really did anything, Keelan Robinson. But, do they use him a little bit more this year? Does he even maybe sneak into being like an RB3 who comes in and can catch some passes? And so, if you play in any type of return leagues, I think Keelan Robinson is a decent ad here. By the way, he had 2 kick returns only last year. Ryan, into wide receivers, Ryan Flournoy for your Dallas Cowboys. Flournoy, he got a little bit of hype during training camp last year. He was drafted in the 6th round by the Cowboys, of course. And now you're looking at a situation for the Cowboys where, like, you have CeeDee Lamb, obviously, you have Jalen Tolbert, but beyond that, Kevontae Turpin's a free agent, Brandon Cooks is a free agent. So, and again, like maybe some of these moves have been made where they re-signed Turpin. Just keep that in mind. That possibly could happen. But, is Flournoy in conversation to compete for a wide receiver 3 or 4 job for the Cowboys? Again, do they draft someone? Do they bring someone in? I would think so. But the Cowboys have also done things where you just, it doesn't make sense. Like, not trying to pursue a Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley and, just rolling with Rico Dowdle last year, who was fine. But, obviously, I think we can all acknowledge like they need a little bit more of a difference maker potentially. So crazier things have happened, especially with the Cowboys. Ryan Flournoy, who was drafted last year, got a little bit of hype, coming out of college. So he's an interesting guy that I think could potentially fill the slot role for them. Brendan Rice is another one who he was kind of injured all of last year. He's on the Chargers. Chargers are another team where they have some free agents, DJ Shark, Palmer, and I think one other player. So you're kind of left with like Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and not much else behind, their team there. So obviously we all think that they're going to be bringing in or drafting a wide receiver or some kind of weapon for Herbert, whether it's a wide receiver or tight end. But like, what if it's a tight end and they kind of roll with, okay, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Jalen Reagor, Darius Davis, Simi Fehoko, like, these type of guys. Like Brendan Rice, who some people really liked coming out of college, didn't get drafted to the 7th round, so they didn't like him that much. But what if he makes a play for wide receiver 3 or 4 for this team? It's a possibility. Again, guys that are potentially gaining value just by the moves their teams don't make. That's kind of what we're searching for here. And obviously, these are all pretty deep cuts for sure. Ainias Smith is a player for the Philadelphia Eagles. I really liked Ainias Smith coming out of college just because I'm a little bit of a sucker for hybrid kind of players. And Ainias Smith is like a wide receiver / running back. I think he had 1 year at Texas A&M where he really was mostly a running back. He had 43 catches and 50 carries. So he was kind of that hybrid type of player. And I kind of just thought like, okay, you have A.J. Brown there. You have Devonta Smith there. Like you're obviously not going to be overtaking those 2 players, but could they find that 3rd player to kind of fill in the role of like that movable piece, short area targets, gives you carries, line up in the backfield? And could that be Ainias Smith? I still think there's a chance it is Ainias Smith next year, especially if the Eagles don't really bring anyone else in. So he was drafted by them in the 5th round. He was also hurt at the beginning of the year, so that kind of just like tanked his rookie year, which is why I think we didn't really see him. So obviously the Eagles have a decent depth chart there, again, with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Jahan Dotson, I believe, still there. Johnny Wilson, I believe, Johnny Wilson will still be there. So he's going to have to beat out some names, but he kind of he does enough things differently than A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith that, potentially he becomes kind of that wide receiver 3 for them. Again, stranger things have happened. Xavier Weaver, another guy that I had on my Dynasty waiver wire show for a while, rookie last year who did nothing, absolutely nothing. The Cardinals are losing, I believe, their wide receiver 3, 4, and 5 last year. I'm going to double check that, but I know they're, I shouldn't say they're losing them, but they're free agents. It's Greg Dortch, Zay Jones, Greg Dortch, Zay Jones, and there was one other player that I can't seem to pull up, Zach Pascal. Right, so Zay Jones, Greg Dortch, and Pascal. Now, Greg Dortch is a restricted free agent, so good chance that they just keep him. But Xavier Weaver, I don't think the Cardinals wide receiver room is locked like it is in Philly, for example, right? Where it's okay, you have Michael Wilson, he's seemingly a nice player that has tools, but if we're being honest, he hasn't put it together yet. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get another shot. Greg Dortch, if they bring him back. But could Xavier Weaver on a team that maybe they don't bring in a wide receiver, could Xavier Weaver kind of work his way into being making the depth chart and being a wide receiver 4 for them and working his way up? So a player that came out of Colorado had an intriguing skill set, but he went undrafted, I believe, and there's probably a reason for that. Into some tight ends here to finish off. Jaheim Bell, who a lot of people, if you follow college football and Dynasty and Devy leagues, you're familiar with Jaheim Bell because in college he was going into the 2023 season. He was drafted last year. He was a rookie last year. Going into the 2023 season, Jaheim Bell was on a lot of people's top 3, top 5 tight ends. I know it was a little bit weaker of a tight end class outside of Brock Bowers last year, but he was kind of up there as in contention to be that next tight end 2 or 3 in the draft class. Now he fell to the 7th round to the Patriots, but he's a tweener is the issue. He's a tweener. He's not a true tight end. He's not a true wide receiver. So he's one of those tweener guys. He was super versatile in college. He had 73 carries one year. So he was more of an H-back where he had 25 catches, but also 73 carries. I'm curious. And one of the reasons why I'm curious here, one is obviously Hunter Henry's there. Austin Hooper is a free agent. So Jaheim Bell was the tight end 3 for them last year. Now, you do have a new coaching staff coming in. So that's important to kind of recognize that things are up in the air with these depth chart guys where it's they could just cut them or whatever. They could bring in one of their own guys that they prefer to have on their team and put them above them in the depth chart. That's all of that is possible for sure. But at the same time, I think about Vrabel, who's now the head coach of the Patriots. And Vrabel, Jonnu Smith's first breakout year, first year where we started hearing about his name was in 2020, when Vrabel was still there. Jonnu Smith's been in the league since 2017. Didn't really do anything. 2019, he had 35 catches and over 400 yards, so decent. 2020, he had 40 catches, 450 yards, 8 touchdowns. He was actually a startable piece in fantasy that year because of the 8 touchdowns. And that happened under Mike Vrabel, right? And he had 6 carries in 2 years with Mike Vrabel at Tennessee. So he kind of is that Jaheim Bell type of player, maybe not as good, but in terms of that tweener, you can give him some carries. So does Jaheim Bell become kind of take a bigger role in the offense potentially? There's a chance. Is it going to happen? No, but there's definitely a chance there. So, couple more tight ends here. Julian Hill, if you watch the Dynasty waiver wire show, I throw him on there every single week. He's just a player, kind of an athletic tight end. Was definitely a developmental guy. I think he went undrafted out of Campbell, so he played at a smaller school, but he's athletic. He's 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", 250, can move. He actually played a decent amount for Miami last year. You wouldn't really know it because he only had 12 catches, but he played 47% of the snaps, so they were using him. He's going to be in Miami again. He's going to be backing up Jonnu Smith. But what if something happens to Jonnu Smith? We just saw the tight end be very productive for the Miami Dolphins. Does Julian Hill kind of come in and replace that production? Maybe. I wouldn't mind stashing him in deeper leagues just to see if something happens there. Tanner McLachlan is one that I'm a little bit intrigued by. Now, I know the Bengals just re-signed Mike Gesicki, and so one of the reasons I was going to be excited about Tanner McLachlan, who, by the way, was drafted, he was a rookie. Last year, drafted by the Bengals. They drafted 2 tight ends, Eric All, and then I think in the 5th round or 4th round, and then McLachlan in the 6th round. And again, I kind of took the Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft approach of like, hey, everyone's focusing on Eric All, but what about this guy that they also drafted a couple rounds later? They kind of took the spray and pray approach. And anyways, so the Bengals, going into this free agency, Mike Gesicki, Tanner Hudson, and Cam Grandy, all 3 tight ends that were free agents. Now, Mike Gesicki re-signed. I think Cam Grandy also re-signed with them, which is, obviously hurts the chances for McLachlan a little bit. But again, can he work his way up and become the tight end 2 for them? Eric Hall is going to miss the entire year. So that ship has probably sailed, unfortunately. He just can't stay healthy. So like McLachlan, who was drafted in the 6th round, had some decent productive years at Arizona. 2023 coming out, his last year in college, 45 catches, 530 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's not bad for a tight end in college. Could he work his way up and be the tight end 2 behind Gesicki? There's a possibility there. And then the last one here is A.J. Barner. I think a lot of people have A.J. Barner on their rosters, but in case he's out there, I would definitely be looking to bring in A.J. Barner just because Noah Fant is a cut candidate for sure. And I think A.J. Barner can actually be a pretty interesting tight end. Like if he were to get the starting tight end role for the Seahawks, I think he could potentially be one of those tight ends where a big group of them where they catch 40 to 50 passes, they give you 450 to 650 yards, and then 5 touchdowns or so, which a lot of tight ends do. So he's a guy that if they do cut Noah Fant and they don't bring anyone else in, I'm intrigued by A.J. Barner actually going into the 2025 season. So there you have it, guys. Some deep Dynasty stashes. As always, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Join our Discord. Link is in the description. And get in there, and we're putting together some real money listener leagues. So if you want to join those, hop on in. Appreciate it, everyone. I'll see you guys all in the next video.